The best way to prevent someone from stealing the title to your house. You've probably heard of title theft protection on the radio or TV.
Home title fraud is one of the fastest growing white-collar crimes in the country.
What I'm going to share with you, I think, is a far better way than what they are proposing. You're inheriting all your children's liability, and if they get in an accident or get in trouble with the IRS, it takes somebody less than 30 seconds to search and find out that they own 100% of your house. You'll actually get out of debt much faster by not giving extra principal payments to the mortgage company. Leverage without liquidity is stupidity, okay? So get ready. I think you're going to gain some insights into why you can keep your real estate equity separated and all the advantages rather than having it exposed in this sue-happy society we live in, and also from those predators who would like to steal the title to your property. They won't if you do what I'm going to tell you next. So I'm Doug Andrew. I've been a financial strategist and a retirement planning specialist now for 5 decades, helping thousands of Americans optimize their assets, minimize taxes, and empower what I call their authentic wealth. Now, I've been very blessed in my career so far to have authored 12 best-selling books. And my first couple of books, the first one was Missed Fortune, and it was actually 4 books in one. My next one, we went through 500,000 copies of that, and that was Missed Fortune 101. We were blessed to have a New York Times, Wall Street Journal #1 bestseller. That was book number 4, which is Last Chance Millionaire. And so in all of those books, I have talked about my approach to people who own real estate, especially savvy real estate investors. And people say, Doug, what do you do? Now, I don't consider myself to be, a major real estate investor, even though I probably have owned more real estate than most Americans have. I just don't like to be a landlord. I don't like to buy it and rent out property and so forth. If I buy properties, it's usually for my own use or to fix it up and then flip it, okay, for a profit. But let me go through and explain this concept because you hear a lot of ads. Hey, your title to your property could be stolen. And, they only have like 30 seconds or 60 seconds on the radio. And they say, somebody just goes to the county and they take your name and falsify a transfer of the deed or the title to your property. And they go record it. And then they go take out a mortgage on it. And now you're stuck with it. If you try to get the property back, now you owe that money or what have you. Which is a little bit confusing because if they steal the title and put it in their name, and they take out a mortgage, then they should be liable for that mortgage or the lender who loaned them the money. But regardless, I'm going to show you the simplest way to make sure that nobody will want to steal the title to your house or any real estate that you own, okay? So I have an entire series, a playlist of how to manage real estate equity. And there's 12 reasons, 12 different episodes of why I keep my real estate equity separated. I'll go through and just quickly give you those 12 reasons. And if you're intrigued, I would invite you to watch the deeper version, the video that is usually 12, 15 minutes or so that explains it in more detail if you're confused, okay? The first reason is to maintain the utmost liquidity, okay? If I have a major setback or an emergency, if you have your equity trapped in the property, there's only one way to get it, and that's to borrow it back. And when you need it the worst, it's the hardest to get to qualify if you're unemployed or disabled or whatever. Or you have to sell the property, and it may not be the best market to do that. And so I've always kept my real estate equity separated over here in a cash position, and my favorite vehicle to do that is what I call a L.A.S.E.R fund. And L.A.S.E.R means liquid assets safely earning returns. And so, yes, I might have an amortized mortgage or even interest-only mortgage, which is my preference, because I actually, as I'll show you, I can get out of debt faster than giving extra principal payments to the mortgage company. But see, let me just make sure you understand. I'm going to use my right pocket and my left pocket here. I keep all of the money that I would be tempted to pay in extra principal payments or a huge down payment. I've never paid a down payment for any piece of real estate I've acquired. I've satisfied down payments, but not with money out of my own pocket, okay? And so I keep my cash liquid over here in this pocket, compounding, tax-free. And it's compounding at a rate of return that's usually double to triple the net cost of what I'm paying on a mortgage, okay? So the net cost when I borrow money at 4.5%, tax-deductible interest is 3. And I'm making 9% or more over here. How much more is 9 than 3? Don't say 6. It's 300% more. On $1 million mortgage on a property, I'm paying $30,000 a year in interest, but I'm making $90,000 by not having it paid off. I'm making 3 times more than the cost of the funds. Would you hire an employee for 30 grand that made you an extra 90 grand, or would you buy a widget machine for 30,000 that made you an extra 90,000? Now, people who don't understand this and how money works, they don't realize it's actually costing them to have the mortgage free and clear. And so many savvy real estate investors, they understand what I'm talking about here. So this is compounding tax-free. This is simple interest. And if you do it right, it can be tax deductible, especially on rental properties or on your own home based upon your tax situation and what have you, okay? A lot of people say, well, I don't make enough money. I take a standard deduction, so I can't utilize it. They're not thinking how they could qualify to have a deductible mortgage interest for their business or whatever. They're limited in their thinking. So the reason why I keep my real estate equity separated, number one, is for liquidity, the ability to access money when I need it rather than having to borrow it out of the house or sell the house. Number two is safety, so that when the real estate goes down in value, if it's tied up in the property, I will lose money, I guarantee you. I don't lose when my real estate goes down in value, when I have the money separated over in a liquid account, compounding tax-free, and it's protected from market loss, okay? That's what a max-funded IUL does. And then number three is to earn a rate of return that is greater than the net cost of what you're paying to have mortgages on the property, because you're becoming your own banker. Banks, they pay interest. Why? Because it's actually their greatest asset is their liabilities. If they stop paying interest, they would wither up and die. And people who don't understand this, they'll miss out on hundreds of thousands, maybe even millions of dollars because they don't understand how money works. The second reason then that I keep my real estate equity separate is for peace of mind in the event of any financial situation that is out of my control. This would be unemployment, financial setback, recessions, liability exposure, the need to liquidate. But for title theft, I don't have to worry. Who's gonna go and steal my title if I have $1 million property and I owe $800,000 to $1 million on it? They would inherit that liability. They will never try to take the title from that property, okay? Hopefully you'll get it as I continue here. The third reason is because houses were made to house families, not to store cash, okay? And a lot of people don't understand what I'm talking about there, but I keep my real estate equity in instruments that were designed to store cash safely. In the property, you could lose 30 or 40%, which people have done when real estate markets plummet. The fourth is to protect my equity from liability lawsuits. And this is another reason why you should not put your children's names on your deeds and what have you, thinking that's smart, that you're avoiding probate. You're inheriting all your children's liability. And if they get in an accident or get in trouble with the IRS, it takes somebody less than 30 seconds to search and find out that they own 100% of your house. And you go, they don't know 100%. I just put their name on the deed. Well, it's probably under joint tenancy, means they own 100% like you do. So they're 100% exposed with all their liabilities, and you just said, come and take anything we've got if you kids get into trouble. All your creditors, if you're texting on the freeway and you cause an accident, you can use my house and my real estate because I put my child's name on that title, okay? Number 5, to keep equity safe from real estate market downturns. Because if the real estate market goes down, which it does probably every 7 years on the average, I don't lose, okay? I keep it separated over where it is earning a rate of return equal or greater than the cost of the mortgage, but also because If the market goes down in the stock market, I don't lose. I may not make much of anything, but I don't lose. And so many people have thanked me profusely for helping them not lose the equity in their house or their real estate by keeping it separated. Here's an example of what I'm talking about, becoming your own banker. If a bank is borrowing OPM, other people's money, let's say $1 million, and back in 2008, they were paying a measly 1%. They only had to pay out $10,000 a year. They turn around and they put that where I put my money, and they earn 4 or 5%. How much more is 4 than 1? Don't say 3. They're making $40,000. They're making 400% more than the cost of the funds. This is what savvy bankers do. You can become your own banker. Me, if I borrow money back in 2008 at 3 3/4, this is how much interest I pay, but I make sure it's deductible, okay? And it's a net cost of 2.5. I make 10. How much more is 10 than 2.5? 400%. The banks were making 400%. I was making 400%. And a lot of times critics will look at this and say, well, I can't deduct the interest. That tells me they're not creative enough. They just look at their tax situation and they take the standard deduction, and they don't understand how to do this. This is why you need to watch the full episodes, okay? So back in 2008, real estate went down. I had and my house was worth about $1.5 million at the time. And I was borrowing 80% loan to value on that at 4.5%, tax deductible, a net cost of 3 in a 33% bracket. And I was making conservatively 8 to 12%. How much more is 8 than 3? Okay, it's $75,000 profit. That's just the first year. I am making money. I would not have made that extra money had I had my house paid off. But what happened in 2008? Real estate values went down. At the end of 2008, my house was only worth $1.1 million. But in December of 2007, I could see the writing on the wall. I separated $400,000 of equity on a second mortgage, okay? And because of my credit, I can borrow 100% loan to value. Even if I was paying 6% tax deductible, that's a net cost of 4, that's 16. On that $400,000 at just 8%, I was making 100% more, $32,000 than the net cost of 16. I was making 100% rates of return on equity, $400,000 of equity that was no longer even in the property. If I had left it in the property, I would have lost $400,000 for sure. It took several years for that property to come back and be worth $1.5 million again, okay? And so the sixth reason is your money needs a home safer than your house. What I'm saying is that, real estate is moderate risk, but, the big bad wolf can blow down this house of sticks in the story of the 3 little pigs. The stock market, though, is like the house of straw. I keep my serious cash, including my real estate equity, safely tucked over here in a house of bricks. And the best place to put it for liquidity, safety, and rates of return and have tax-free accumulation is in a L.A.S.E.R fund. And I'll show you how you can claim a copy of my book here at the end of this episode. I'll pay for the book, okay? And so the big bad wolf, and these are the recessions and the problems and the pandemics, when it blows down the stock market and the real estate market, I can sleep because my money is not tied up in that property. It's over here. Compounding, okay, tax-free, greater than the cost of the mortgage. If the mortgage is tax deductible, that's just icing on the cake. It doesn't have to be tax deductible, okay, to make money. The seventh reason is to be treated more favorably by financial institutions during market downturns. When the market goes down, financial institutions will work with you all day long. If you have been paying extra principal payments and you're totally exposed, you don't even know it. And if you miss 3 payments, they'll foreclose on you faster if you have a low mortgage balance than if you have a high mortgage balance. Some people do not understand that. You'll also be able to sell your house for a higher price and quicker if you have a high mortgage on it versus a low mortgage balance. Watch the episode if you don't understand why. Because so many people, they wonder what happened when they don't get educated, okay? The eighth reason, you're going to either incur an opportunity cost. If you pay off a property, you're giving up the opportunity to earn a rate of return because the house or the real estate's going to go up or down in value, regardless of whether it's mortgaged at a hilt or free and clear. Has nothing to do with how much equity is in there. The rate of return on equity on real estate is always the same, 0, okay, nada. You get money as a function of the house appreciating, but it's going to do that whether it's mortgaged at the hilt or free and clear, okay? But if it goes down in value, I guarantee you, you will lose, okay? And so you borrow to conserve, not to consume. If you're going to borrow money on your house to go buy a depreciating asset like a car or a jet ski or a four-wheeler, that's dumb. When you borrow to become your own banker. You borrow to conserve and make money, okay? And so there are 4 things that you can do with money. You can spend it, lend it, own with it, or give it away, okay? What I'm talking about here is I actually put my money in a lended position and I own with it. I'm owning my real estate, but I'm also loaning on it. I keep it in a lended position. Why would I borrow and pay interest? Because I'm making more than the interest. That's what banks do. They simply borrow and pay you 1%, 2%, or 3% when you put money in the bank, and they turn around and make double that or triple that. That's how money works, okay? Now, banks, if they have $1 million and they paid back in 2008, 1%, they only have to pay out 10 grand a year. They turn around and put it into insurance companies where I put my money. That's what a L.A.S.E.R fund is, and is invested in an insurance company, the backbone of America, the backbone of the world. And back in 2008, the banks were making 5%. How much more is 5 than 1? Don't say 4, it's 500%, okay? They're making 50,000 for every 10,000. Again, would you hire an employee for 10 grand if that employee made you an extra 50 grand, okay? That's a 500% return on employment cost. For 40 years, I probably averaged on my real estate borrowing at 6%. Now, I'm okay if I can't deduct that, but if I can deduct it, because I use my house as collateral even to borrow from my business. Hello? This is one reason why you ought to have a business, okay? And so in a 33% bracket, it's a net cost of 4. On every million, I might pay 40,000, but I make 8 to 10% on my L.A.S.E.R fund. How much more is 8 than 4? 100%, okay? Math does not lie. In a low interest environment like 2008, I showed you, I was borrowing money as low as 3% tax deductible. That's a net cost of 2, and I was making 10, okay? How much more is 10 than 2? 500%. The banks were making 500% in 2008, and I was making 500%, even on equity that was no longer in my property. Hopefully you're going, golly, I got to learn more about this. The 9th reason you'll actually get out of debt much faster by not giving extra principal payments to the mortgage company. I can't believe how many people go, I'm just gonna plow every extra dollar I can against my mortgage and save a lot of money and get out of debt. And I'm going, that's a good way, but it's a far cry from the best way. You get out of debt about 2.5 years sooner by not sending that extra money to the mortgage. And people don't understand. It's because you're putting it over here in a L.A.S.E.R fund, compounding tax-free at a rate of return that's greater than the net cost of the mortgage, okay? So if you want to get out of debt, there's smart and quick ways, smarter and quicker ways, but the smartest and quickest way is not in any way, shape, or form sending extra principal payments to the mortgage company. If you do that, if you take all this money and you pay off this credit card and this credit card and this car loan, and you follow some of these formulas to get out of debt, that's a good way. And you might get your house paid off in 12.5 years. This is a pretty aggressive illustration of a company that consolidates and does all of this to get you out of debt. And you sock away the difference once your house is paid off into a tax-deferred IRA or 401k, you might end up with $987,000 at an 8% rate of return. That's not all your money. You have to pay tax on that in a tax-deferred IRA. That's only worth about $650,000 after tax, your money. I simply say, if you put it over here, compounding that same money instead of giving it to the mortgage company, you'll have enough money in 10.2 years, 2.3 years faster to pay off that mortgage. But you'll have liquidity and access to your money if you have an emergency. If you give it to the mortgage company, there's only one way to get it back, and that's to borrow it back or sell the property, okay? I do it for liquidity. But in actuality, when I have enough money in this pocket to pay off the mortgage, I physically don't do it because I am out of debt. Why would I fire an employee that's making me double to triple what they're costing me? That's dumb. Okay, you're not saving money by firing that employee. It's costing you money. Does this make sense? And so I keep that mortgage there, and I end up with $1.8 million tax-free. How much more is 1.8 million than $650,000 after tax? It's triple. We do this all the time. Would you rather have this or this or this, an extra 1.2 million? So it's that simple, and that's why the Federal Reserve Bank of Chicago issued a 38-page report clear back in 2006 after my second book was released, and it illustrated this. They said, hey, would you see if Doug Andrews' book is telling the truth? And they went, yeah. Americans are making the wrong choice. These were three financial gurus. If they were sending extra principal payments against their mortgages, they said that was a misallocation of funds. If you would reallocate it into something compounding tax-free instead of giving it to the mortgage company, you'd reap a substantial gain like I just showed you. You'll end up with double or triple. And they called it a rather conservative way, okay? The 10th is to leverage with full liquidity. Leverage without liquidity is stupidity, okay? And so that's where you're owning and controlling assets like your house or real estate with very little or none of your money tied up or at risk in that asset, okay? And you're staying totally liquid. Number 11 reason is to earn a rate of return because the rate of return on real estate equity is always zero. It doesn't matter how much equity you have or if it's mortgaged to the hilt, the property is going to go up or down in value regardless. When you separate it, you give that equity the ability to earn a rate of return. If it's trapped in the property, the rate of return is always zero. And if you need to watch the full episode of that one to understand what I just said, do it. Otherwise, you're going to be, frankly, illiterate the rest of your life on how money works in real estate. The 12th reason is to become my own banker and make, double and triple like I said. Every 100,000 of separated equity from a property, even if I borrowed at 6.5%, okay, and I only earned 8.5%, some critics go, you'll do all that for 2%, just making 2% more than the cost. Yeah, even if I can't deduct it, I'll come out hundreds of thousands of dollars ahead over a 30-year period, okay? But if I can deduct that because I figure out how to make it deductible, okay? So many people, they watch these episodes and they go, well, I take the standard deduction, so I can't deduct it. And that tells me immediately they don't even know how to create tax deductible interest. Watch that episode. But over a 30-year period, the first year you're making $4,000 profit, but it begins to compound. That's an extra $1 million over a 30-year period. And that's if you only did it once. The difference between thrivers and arrivers, thrivers repeat the process. And so I can prove to you that if you refinance this property every 5 years on the average, based upon just a very conservative real estate appreciation rate of 5%, that number would be $4 million. You'd have an extra $4 million at the end of 30 years that you wouldn't have if you just hurry and pay off the house and leave it sitting there paid off. Okay? So let me ask you this. If you own rental properties, it's the same. I had a client with several rental homes, and he went out and mortgaged those. Okay, every $1 million that he borrowed at 4.5% was $45,000. He can deduct the interest on a rental property. That was a net cost of 3% in his tax bracket. And he was able to earn 9% in his L.A.S.E.R fund, compounding tax-free. How much more is 9 than 3? 300%. We do this all the time. Banks do this, and I'm saying that you can do the same thing. $1 million of cash value, okay? In 2017, one of my clients, he borrowed $1 million out of his L.A.S.E.R fund, and he actually borrowed from the insurance company and left that $1 million in the L.A.S.E.R fund because that was used as collateral. He borrowed at 5%. That $1 million made him an extra $3 million buying, fixing up, and flipping a strip mall. And also that $1 million in his L.A.S.E.R fund that year earned 25%. Do you understand what I'm saying? He made $250,000 on the $1 million he left in his L.A.S.E.R fund. They deducted the $50,000. He made 20% or $200,000 tax-free on his $1 million while he was actually using that $1 million. Okay, he borrowed from the insurance company. using that money as collateral and made $3 million. This is what savvy people do. So coming back full circle to the best way to prevent someone from stealing the title to your house is not buying expensive title insurance protection plans. If you haven't figured out, as I've gone through these 12 reasons, who in the world is going to come and steal my title to a $1.5 million house if I owe $1.5 million on it? What good does it do them? There is no equity for them to want to have the title. If it's free and clear, you better watch out. If you keep it separated, they're not going to do that, because then they will also inherit the mortgages you have on that. And I still have all my money separated and protected because they can't steal that money. This is a big aha for a lot of people. So again, I would strongly recommend, if you want to protect your home equity or your real estate equity, the best thing to do, and many savvy asset protection attorneys will agree, they go, Doug, you solve a huge problem for many of our sophisticated clients. Who is going to sue you or come after your real estate title or deeds if the equity is not there? If it's separated over into a L.A.S.E.R fund, that's next to impossible to get to in courts of law or anything. And so they walk away. Think about it. Watch the entire series and claim a copy of my book. Simply go to laserfund.com or click on the link below, and you can contribute a nominal amount towards the shipping and handling. I require a little bit of skin in the game, but I'll pay for this 300-page book. And I'll fire out a hard copy to you via priority mail. But while you're in there claiming your free copy, if you like to listen and learn or watch and learn, there's audio and video formats there. There's also an 18-hour masterclass. But you can also schedule an appointment to talk to an IUL specialist so you can see how one of these L.A.S.E.R funds can work in your particular set of circumstances. So claim your free copy now, and I'll see you on the other side of your brighter future.